Good morning. We are at Brown County State Park. What a beautiful, beautiful place. Pam and I love to come here. Back about 21 years ago, Tom and Lynn Frame, who may be watching this at some point, or Jason, their son, they introduced us to the Horsemen's Camp at Brown County State Park. And my oh my, little did we know at that time how wonderful it would be to come here regularly, sometimes 3 times a year, and bring a couple horses. Talking about the Horsemen's Camp. It's on the one end of the park, and it's a marvelous, marvelous place. It's just after 6:30, and I am up on Trail 6. It's a long, long walk up the hill, up Trail B to Trail 6, but there's a spot here that I love, and I've felt the presence of the Lord in this spot many, many times. A year ago when we were here, I had an unusual encounter here at this spot that I'll not talk about. The secret of the Lord's with the righteous. Sometimes the Lord shares something with you and it's just a secret between you and him. But I want to tell a story. It's going to kind of be a horse message. God's given me some incredible thoughts over the years just with horses, and I've got a message online from years ago entitled Cody, my horse that died in 2018 and 2019. And, God has given me some incredible messages. In fact, the Cody message came from this area. I had a situation happen on a horse, and it brought a message. So what a privilege it is to be here again. And I've scribbled down a few notes this morning while I was having my coffee in our camper. We've been just blessed with a neat 1997 camper that just it's just a blessing. It's a little sanctuary. And Pam is there having her prayer time, and I thought, I'm going to walk up to Trail 6 and I'm going to share a few things. I brought with me this year Black. Black is my 2.5-year-old colt, and he's just an awesome colt. And I want to tell you a little story about Black. But first, I want to talk about my horse, Cody. Cody died 2 years ago, a little over 2 years. It'd be 2 years it was 2 years in February. And Cody had been not just a horse, but a friend. I used to joke that he knew a lot of gospel songs. I love the song, "Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night." Talks about keeping me, taking my hand. It's just all the verses pertain to that. And I actually would sing that while riding him. And he was funny. He would turn his ears around backwards and listen whenever I started that, "Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on." He would just he'd turn his ears around backwards. And Cody was just a friend. Pam always knew that when I wanted to romp and ride and cowboy a little bit, I would ride Jake, Cody's younger brother. But when I wanted just to think and just be alone, I would saddle up Cody. But I lost Cody, and that was hard for me. And, he's just a horse. He's not a person, but he did play a role in my life. He died at 21. And a good friend, Keith, made a nice plaque with horseshoes and his name on it. But anyway, I have a lot of memories of Cody here at Brown County. And so I want to tell you about my horse, Black, that I'm training. I brought him down here to train him. This is like boot camp for a colt. I'll give a little horse lesson here. If you ever want to train a colt, bring them to Brown County State Park. They learn so much so quick. They got to ride in a trailer for 3.5 hours. They got to be unloaded and tied for long periods of time at the campground. They got to get used to other horses and commotion and trails and going through mud and going through creeks and going up and down hills and having difficulties. And hey, I hear some messages and all of that. For it's in our trials and stretching that God develops us. But I'll control my ADD and I'll not go into that. But I brought Black, and I'm training Black. And I want to tell you a little story, and then there's a principle God gave me Tuesday morning on my prayer walk here that I want to share with you. in August of, get this right, 2018. In August of 2018, I kept having this feeling that I should buy a colt. Now, Pam was taken back by that because I had been talking about getting rid of some horses and not having so much care. I'm getting older, and I began getting this feeling that I wanted a colt. And it just wouldn't leave me, and I was just about obsessed with it. I want a colt, I want a colt. And so I told her, I said, do you care? And she said, I don't care. But she said, on the other hand, you've been wanting to trim down on care for horses. I said, I know it, but I just have a desire to get a colt. So I went down to the farm down in the Huntington area where Cody had come from, and the bloodlines that I like so well, the King bloodlines. They're not beautiful horses, but they are very good-natured horses. And I went back down to the farm where Cody came from. The man still had a few horses. He didn't have as many as he used to have. And lo and behold, he had a black colt that had just been born. And I just felt strong after looking at the papers and all. This horse was kind of what I was looking for in a colt, and was related to Cody, technically a grandnephew. And when I looked at the papers, I thought, this is going to be a good horse. And he'll be related to Cody, my best horse. So I bought Black, waited till he was weaned, and went and picked him up. And began working with him, and I actually ponied him on Cody, meaning that if you're not familiar with horses, I would ride Cody, hold a lead rope, and reach around behind me, and I would bring the colt along with me. And it's great training for a young horse. He'll copy your horse, and so pick your best horse. That's who you want him to copy. So I would pony him. Lo and behold, in February of 2019, just 6-7 months later, I found Cody dead in the barn. And even though that was a day I cried hard, and I didn't ever think I would probably cry at the death of an animal. You know, animals are animals, but I do believe that God uses them to minister to us. But I didn't realize, I was actually surprised at myself how I grieved. I sobbed and cried over Cody. And I realized what a friend he had been, and what an awesome experience it had been to have him. So I'm not going to all of that. There was a lot of lessons in that. But the lights came on, and I realized, aha, that is why I felt so strong in August that I was to get a colt, and I was to go back to the farm where Cody had been, and I was to purchase a colt related to Cody. So I was just, even though I was sad about the loss of Cody, my heart was warmed in that I just saw the tender Heavenly Father being sensitive to me. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? The God that made the sun, you can see behind me coming up, and the God that made the stars, and the God that loves us and sent his son to die for us. It says in Psalms 139 that he knows us, he knows our thoughts, he knows our thoughts before we have them, he knows when we get up, he knows when we sit down, he knows when everything we do. Isn't it interesting that he was sensitive to me as his servant? And I'm just a humble servant like you. But he was sensitive to me and prepared the way. And what a unique set of circumstances that I had this strong feeling. It didn't even make sense, really, to go get a colt when I'd been talking about, we got to get trimmed down on horses. We've got too many horses. I'm getting older. I can't do all this. And here I bought this colt, not knowing that Cody would die. The God who sees ahead. And there's a message in that. Jehovah Jireh, the provider. Jehovah Jireh, the provider. Provide comes from the root word vid, where we get the word video. It's the God that sees, he sees vision, sees ahead. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? So I've been raising Black, and been enjoying Black. And a few weeks ago, something that's kind of been a secret is that I gave Black to Pam. And I don't want to say too much about that. It was just a special thing that I wanted to do. She's the love of my life, and she's been going through a lot in the last couple of years, and I just felt like, give her the best thing that you have. And I thought, what would that be? Now I'm talking about material possessions right now, less important than spiritual things, but what would be your most prized possession? And I thought, well, I like my truck, but it's not my most prized possession. I like this, I like that. But I thought, I think Black, Cody's nephew, I think he's probably my most prized possession. So I wanted to give that to her. So I'm going somewhere with that. There's a reason I'm mentioning that. And I had hesitancy even telling. This is kind of a secret between us, but I gave her Black. But I'm doing my best. I told her, I said, I'm going to make this horse the best horse you can ever imagine. I'm going to work with him and work with him and work with him and train him. So anyway, we came to Brown County. Kind of a long background, but you needed that. We came to Brown County this week. And on Tuesday, I went for a prayer walk. And I said, Lord, I think, because Pam's been asking me, what are you going to do? Get another colt? You gave me Black. And I was so surprised that you gave him away. But she appreciated it, and it meant a lot to her, and it meant a lot to me to give the horse to her. But she said to me, what are you going to do for a colt? Are you going to get another colt? Are you going to get another horse? Black was your horse. I could tell you love Black. What are you going to do? And so I kind of schemed up a plan. And I'm going somewhere with this. And this is a little different kind of a message today. My plan was, and I even had it written in my pad, that I was going to go back down to the farm where I'd gotten Black, because the man who runs the farm, Mr. Brown, he has a 23-year-old mare that's expecting a colt. Now, that's pretty old, but she's been a healthy mare. And come to find out, after talking with him and doing a little research on this, which I had decided to do after I chose to give Black to Pam, this mare named Candy is Cody's sister. He still had a sister to Cody on the farm. I was unaware of that. And that sister's name was Candy, and she's 23, which is what Cody would be if he was living, and was in the same batch of colts. He has a batch of colts every year and sells them. And she was in the same batch of colts as Cody. And oh my goodness, was I excited. I thought, oh, this is even a colt more closely related. This is Cody's sister's foal. So I've been contacting Mr. Brown. Has she had the foal yet? Has she had the foal yet? And so I was going to get this colt and get first dibs. And oh, I was excited. And then Pam will have Black, who is a relative, actually a grandnephew to Cody, through another mare. And I will have Candy's foal, and we'll have 2 Cody reproductions, okay? Okay. All right, stay with me. Stay with me. Tuesday, the God who knows us. Tuesday, the God who I talk to daily, and I trust you are too. Tuesday, I was on my walk here in Brown County, and God spoke to me very strong, and he said, Tom, don't try to recreate something that I did before. Let me surprise you. That touched my heart. Tom, don't try to recreate something I did for you that was marvelous, and it meant the world to you. Don't try to recreate it. Let me surprise you. And that day and yesterday and today, that has opened a whole new area of thinking that I needed to share with you, and that's why I'm out here early this morning. I think we have a tendency to want to recreate what God has done instead of taking that adventurous step of faith of always trusting him for a new thing, as it speaks of in Isaiah. Behold, I do a new thing. Yeah, you can go down there and make an Esau, so to speak. Remember, Abraham and Sarah weren't happy that the child hadn't come yet and Isaac hadn't been born, and so they created, through Hagar, they created an Ishmael. Don't try to recreate something I did before. When Moses was at the burning bush and God spoke to him and said, I am that I am, the context of that and the larger meaning of I am that I am, of course, there's several things that can be drawn from that, but I had a message on this a number of years ago. The larger meaning of I am that I am is I save in the manner in which I save. I save in the manner in which I save. Oh, you're backed up against the Red Sea and you're Moses and you've got 1.5 million Israelites. And you say, Lord, what in the world do we do? The Egyptians are going to get us. And God parts the sea and makes 2 walls and you walk through it. He never did that again that I know of. Never again, even through Jesus, his precious son. Jesus walked on water, a new way. He walked on water, but he never did that again. And I think a big mistake we make in our walk with Christ is we often try to recreate something that God did. Oh, that was wonderful. Let's recreate it. And I felt like that morning God said to me, he was trying to get a powerful, it wasn't just about a horse or a colt, even though he cares about those things for us. He loves us. He's our Father. But it was bigger than that. It was a principle. Don't try to recreate something I did in the past. Let me surprise you. You know, we can even do that on little things. I remember 2 years ago, I believe it was, 3 years ago, we had a special service, a James service at CMO. And we did the song Survivor. And God gave me an idea that particular Sunday. We have so many survivors in our congregations from drugs and addictions of various kinds and pornography and prostitution, literally. We have a congregation full of that, and I'm so proud of them, how far they've come. But that day I asked Ray Bates, one of our precious core people, to come up front and have posters ready, small posters, about like this, with markers, and have several markers. And we were going to sing the song Survivor, and I asked people to come up and write on a poster in big letters what they had survived, and hold it and stand across the front and make rows as we sing. Oh my, did the presence of God come in that room. We began singing, and those broken people came up and they wrote prostitution. They wrote heroin addiction. They wrote meth addiction. They wrote alcohol. They wrote abuse as a child. And that whole front of that church was lined with people. And I'm telling you, I never felt the Spirit of God so powerful in my life, showing the work of redemption and the new creation in Christ. Old things pass away, all things become new. After that service, precious Larry D.A., who's now in heaven, came up to me and he pointed at me. I'll never forget it. And he said, I've been in lots of church services in my life, but that was the most powerful service I've ever been in my life. Well, about 2 months later, I came up with a scheme. Let's do Survivor again. My, oh my, God used that. Let's see what we're doing here. Recreate something. I say in the manner in which I say, don't think it's got to be the Red Sea parted, because he won't do it that way again. Don't think it has to be manna falling from heaven and the wafers are on the ground. He won't do it that way again. And I learned such a valuable lesson from that colt. Tom, don't try to recreate something that I did. Let me surprise you. The God of surprises. I guess if I was going to title this, and I don't care that they're titled, but I would title it The God of Surprises. The God of Surprises. I think in our autumn years, some of you listen to this, they're in the same season I'm in. I think it's easy to go back and try to recreate. Oh, God used me powerfully when I was working in the church doing this or this. When I led that home Bible study, oh my goodness, we felt the presence of God. Let's recreate that. Oh, the adventure in the Christian life is when we come to the place where we say, Lord, thank you for the way you did that. Thank you for parting the Red Sea. I know you're not going to do it that way again. Surprise me. Surprise me. And as I buy into that, I'm amazed at how God will use me and how God will do things a new way. He wants a fresh relationship. He wants to do something new. Oh, I had a video a few weeks ago that was there at my home on my prayer trail, and I found myself tempted. Oh, I need to do my videos there at that tree. Well, hey, guess what? We're down in Brown County, and I got old dirty camping clothes on, and I haven't been to the shower house yet. And I felt God spoke to me this morning and said, go up on Trail 6 and talk about the God of surprises. And I believe God will use this today in a different way than he did that other one. Oh, we're not taking away from the other one. We're not taking away from the first time we used Survivor. That was a marvelous thing, but don't try to create it. That second time we sang Survivor, it was dead in there. it was dead in that building. And I felt like God was showing me, son, don't try to recreate something from the past. Let me surprise you. What a powerful, powerful message.